Page 2 of your Unit 8 Evolution Study Guide starts off with number 5. How does evolution account for the unity and diversity of life on Earth? In terms of unity, evolution is supported by biochemistry, such as DNA and RNA. Even though there's many different living things on Earth, we all have the same DNA. We all have adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. It's the arrangement of those nucleotides that makes us different. And the unity part of evolution is supported through common ancestry, that we all descended from a common ancestor. The diversity, evolution accounts for the diversity of life on Earth through genetic variation and adaptations to particular environments. If you look around a population, you can see that members of a population have some genetic variations. And a good example of that, again, is the jaguars. Some of them had large jaws, some of them had smaller jaws. Another example of that is just in our own classroom. We all have different hair colors, different eye colors, so that's all genetic variation. What two conditions must be met for an organism to be considered the same species? We talked about this a lot. You have to be able to breed and produce fertile offspring. Fertile offspring is the key there. Genetic engineering is the deliberate modification of an organism by manipulating its genetic material. So changing its genes around on purpose to modify the organism, like seedless watermelons. Natural selection is nature's way of selecting for traits and adaptations that will increase an organism's ability to survive in a particular environment. Selective breeding is just how it sounds, breeding organisms with certain traits. And artificial selection is different from natural selection because artificial selection is when humans force evolution to occur by selecting for specific traits. Number 8. In what type of rock are fossils most commonly found in comparison to the others? What did the fossil discoveries tell us about the age of the Earth? We started to learn about the age of the Earth by studying sedimentary rock. And I'm just going to go back to the picture in your slideshow where we talked about that. These discoveries that were made in sedimentary rock enabled us to see that the Earth is actually much older than originally thought. It was believed that the Earth was a few hundred years old, and now we know that it's a few billion years old. And fossils found in the lower levels of the sedimentary rock are much older than fossils found in higher levels. And many of those fossils in the lower levels are extinct. They come from extinct organisms. Number 9, a homologous structure is something that's similar in bone, nerve, and muscle, but it has a different job. So homologous structures are like the limbs, the forelimbs of a cat or a forearm of a human versus a flipper of a whale and the wing of a bat. They are similar in muscular arrangement, skeletal arrangement, and nerve arrangement, but they have different jobs. I'm going to skip. So then the next one here on number 9 is what is a vestigial structure. It's something that's left over from an evolutionary past. Things like our tonsils and our tailbones. And things like wings in flightless birds, nictitating membranes in owls, semilunar folds in humans are all leftovers from an evolutionary past. And I'm going to skip ahead to analogous structure on page 3, where it's one of your vocabulary terms, one of our definitions there, and we were looking at the definition for an analogous structure is something that has a similar job but a different shape. So they've derived from a different evolutionary pathway. So if we look at the butterfly wing of a bird and the butterfly wings versus bird wings, they do the same thing. They help the organism fly, but they've derived from a different evolutionary pathway. They have different arrangements of blood vessels and things like that. The butterfly's wing is part of its exoskeleton. So they're very different structure, but they serve a similar purpose.